At 3:17 a.m., Daniel was awake again, staring at the ceiling like it might finally give him an answer. His chest felt tight. His phone buzzed with another unread notification, and the same thought circled his mind. I can't keep living like this. That was the moment anxiety stopped being just a feeling and became a question he could no longer avoid. Daniel was not what most people would call broken. He had a stable job, a small apartment in a quiet American city, and friends who believed he was doing just fine. On the outside, his life looked organized, even calm. On the inside, it felt like standing in the middle of a storm that no one else could see. Anxiety had become his background noise. It showed up in subtle ways at first: a racing heart before meetings, a constant urge to check emails, a strange sense of dread on Sunday evenings, even when nothing bad was scheduled for Monday. Daniel told himself this was normal. Everyone was stressed. Everyone felt pressure. But this was different. His thoughts never fully stopped. They whispered worst-case scenarios while he brushed his teeth. They replayed conversations on a loop while he tried to sleep. They questioned every decision he made, no matter how small. Did I say the wrong thing? What if I messed this up? What if this is as good as my life gets? Daniel was 34 years old and felt like he was constantly falling behind an invisible deadline. At work, he was reliable but invisible. He did what was asked, nothing more, nothing less. Not because he lacked ambition, because ambition felt dangerous. Taking risks meant inviting failure, and failure felt unbearable. So he stayed quiet in meetings. He avoided applying for promotions. He said maybe later to ideas that once excited him. At home, he distracted himself with endless scrolling, half-watched shows, and late-night snacks that tasted like comfort but left him feeling worse. He told himself he was relaxing, but deep down, he knew he was avoiding something. What he was avoiding didn't have a clear name. It wasn't just fear. It wasn't just stress. It was the feeling that his life was slowly shrinking. Daniel remembered a time when he wasn't like this. In his early 20s, he had plans. He talked about starting a small business someday. He wanted to write. He imagined himself traveling, learning, becoming someone braver. But life had a way of narrowing possibilities. A few setbacks, a job offer that felt safe, bills that needed paying, responsibilities that stacked up quietly. Without noticing, Daniel had traded possibility for predictability, and anxiety moved into the space where hope used to live. He never talked about it, not really. When friends asked how he was doing, he said, busy. When family asked about the future, he said, we'll see. At night, when everything was quiet, the questions became louder. Is this it? Is this who I'm going to be forever? The worst part wasn't the anxiety itself. It was the feeling that he was stuck with. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't dramatic, no urgent subject line, just a simple announcement: Department Restructuring Update. Daniel read it twice. The company was downsizing. Several roles would be eliminated over the next 3 months. Some employees would be reassigned, others would be let go. His name wasn't mentioned, at least not yet. For the rest of the day, Daniel couldn't focus. Every notification made his stomach drop. Every conversation felt loaded with hidden meaning. He imagined being called into a meeting, walking out with a cardboard box, explaining to people that he didn't know what came next. By the time he got home, his anxiety had crossed the line. He sat on the edge of his bed, fully dressed, staring at nothing. Something inside him cracked, not loudly, but deeply. For the first time, he admitted a truth he had been avoiding for years. The job I was clinging to for safety was the same thing keeping me trapped. That night, sleep didn't come easily. But instead of scrolling or distracting himself, Daniel did something unfamiliar. He opened a blank document on his laptop. At the top, he typed a question: what would I do if I wasn't afraid? He stared at it for a long time. At first, his mind went blank. Then, slowly, answers began to appear. Not polished, not logical, but honest. I would try to write again. I would apply for work that actually challenges me. I would stop waiting to feel ready. The words surprised him. He realized something unsettling. His anxiety wasn't just fear of failure, it was fear of choosing. As long as he stayed stuck, he could blame circumstances. The moment he acted, the responsibility would be his. And that terrified him. But another feeling surfaced beneath the fear. Something quieter, steadier. Relief. The next morning, Daniel made a decision that felt both small and enormous. He would take one step. Not a dramatic leap, not quitting his job overnight, just one deliberate action in the direction of the life he kept imagining. During his lunch break, he applied for a position at a smaller company, one that valued creativity and problem solving, a job he didn't feel fully qualified for, a job he normally would have talked himself out of. When he hit submit, his hands were shaking. He didn't feel confident. He didn't feel brave, but he felt awake. Action didn't cure Daniel's anxiety. If anything, it made it louder at first. After applying, his mind attacked him with new questions. Why did I do that? What if they laugh at my application? What if I get the job and can't handle it? But something had shifted. The anxiety was no longer pointing inward. It was reacting to movement. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel didn't hear back right away. In the past, that silence would have confirmed his worst fears. This time it felt different. Disappointing, yes, but survivable. In the meantime, he kept going. He started waking up 30 minutes earlier to write. Not for publication, not for money, just to remember what it felt like to put thoughts into words. Some days the pages were terrible. Other days they surprised him. He noticed subtle changes. His anxiety still showed up, but it didn't completely control him. When his heart raced, he didn't immediately assume danger. When his thoughts spiraled, he paused and asked, "What am I actually afraid of right now?" At work, he spoke up once in a meeting. His voice shook, but no one reacted negatively. In fact, someone nodded. That small moment stayed with him. Then, one afternoon, his phone buzzed. An email. The company he had applied to wanted to schedule an interview. Daniel felt a rush of fear so strong he almost declined. His finger hovered over the screen. This was the moment his old patterns tried to pull him back. The familiar logic appeared. "You're not ready. This could make things worse. Stay where it's safe." But safety suddenly felt like another word for slow suffocation. He replied yes. The interview wasn't perfect. He stumbled over answers. He admitted he was still learning. He was honest about his anxiety, not in detail, but in spirit. He talked about growth instead of perfection. A week later, he got the offer. The salary wasn't higher, the title wasn't impressive, but the work mattered to him. Accepting the job meant change. New routines, new expectations, new chances to fail. On his last day at his old job, Daniel felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Not because it had fulfilled him, but because it had taught him what staying still cost. The first few months at the new company were hard. There were days when his anxiety flared up stronger than ever. Days when he questioned everything. Days when he went home exhausted, wondering if he had made a mistake. But there was also progress. He was learning. He was contributing. He was moving. Anxiety became something he carried, not something that carried him. Daniel didn't wake up one day completely free of fear. That never happened. What did happen was quieter and more important. He learned that anxiety often isn't a signal to stop, it's a signal to pay attention. For years, his anxiety had been trying to tell him something. You're living out of alignment with who you are. He also learned that confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after. Waiting to feel ready had kept him stuck. Acting while afraid had set him free. Most importantly, Daniel realized that the opposite of anxiety isn't calm, it's engagement. When he was passive, his mind filled the space with fear. When he was involved in his life, making choices, taking responsibility, the fear lost some of its power. Anxiety didn't disappear, but meaning showed up, and meaning changed everything. Today, Daniel still has anxious moments. He still has doubts. But when they appear, he asks himself a different question now. What is one small action I can take instead of staying stuck? And here's the question for you. If your anxiety isn't trying to stop you, but trying to guide you, what decision have you been avoiding that might change your life?